Today, we're diving straight into a psychological concept it's going to completely change how you handle difficult people. Think about it for a second. How often does someone say something totally out of line and you just instantly lose your cool? Or maybe you just freeze up? We've all been there. Well, today we are uncovering a framework known as the Triad Response, and it gives us a foolproof strategy to completely neutralize disrespect on the spot. Okay, let's dive into this. Be brutally honest with yourself for a second. When someone disrespects you, what is your immediate knee jerk reaction? If you're anything like most of us, biology kicks in, right? It forces you down one of two paths. You either get this sudden spike of adrenaline and jump straight into an argument to defend yourself, or you swallow your anger, drop your gaze, and stay completely silent. It's the classic fight or flight. But here's the hard truth we really need to confront today. In both of those scenarios, you actually lose. Section 1, the dilemma of disrespect, the reaction test. Which brings us to Section 2, the trap of reacting, surrendering power. You see, when we let our biology dictate our response, we fall into a massive trap. And looking at these two extremes brilliantly illustrates exactly how that trap works. Take arguing, for instance. When you argue back, you're actually providing emotional validation to the instigator. You're basically communicating that their words hold significant weight over your emotional state, which just feeds their ego. Now, consider the other extreme, passive silence. If you just sit there, take it, and say absolutely nothing, they perceive it as weakness. You're essentially giving them permission to do it again in the future. So both of these biological reactions hand the victory right over to the other person. We desperately need a third option. Enter Section 3, the Triad Response, silent dominance. This framework is the ultimate solution for gaining instant frame control without ever having to raise your voice. It's broken down into 3 tangible chronological steps. Step 1 is the micropause. Step 2 is the calibration question. And step 3 is the boundary reset. By mastering these 3 steps, and specifically in this exact order, we can systematically dismantle any attempt to rattle us. Let's break down exactly how to execute each phase. So step 1 is the micropause, and the magic number you need to remember here is 4 seconds. The very moment someone throws a disrespectful remark your way, your first instruction is simple but tough. Do not respond immediately. You must hold complete silence and lock onto them with neutral eye contact for exactly 3 to 4 seconds. No anger in your eyes, no smug smirk on your face, just a completely flat, neutral expression. Now, I know it sounds so simple, but holding silence for 4 whole seconds in a tense moment, it feels like an absolute eternity. You're going to want to crawl out of your skin, but it is absolutely critical. The science behind why this silence is so devastating is just fascinating. See, the human brain is hardwired to look for predictable patterns. So when someone insults you, their brain fully expects an immediate defense or a sudden explosive spike of anger. When you hit them with a 4-second pause instead, you create a literal brain glitch. Their system simply doesn't know how to process it. In that lingering silence, they immediately start to question themselves, thinking, wait, did I cross a line? Your deliberate silence creates this instant wave of micro-anxiety in them, transferring all that discomfort entirely onto their shoulders. So, the crucial point is what you do immediately after that pause. This is step 2, the calibration question. You don't argue, you don't insult them back. You just ask this exact question in a very calm tone. Are you having a bad day, or did you mean to say that out loud? This phrasing is incredibly powerful, guys. It calmly highlights the absolute absurdity of their statement without you ever having to get aggressive. Now, if that first one feels a little bit too sharp for the specific situation you're in, here's a secondary, slightly simpler line you can just keep in your back pocket. Just look them dead in the eye and casually say, "What made you think that was appropriate to say?" Again, you are maintaining a perfectly calm tone. You're not starting a screaming match here. You're essentially acting as a mirror, calmly reflecting their bad behavior right back at them and asking them to take a good, hard look at it. Let's unpack the psychology of why step 2 is so remarkably effective. By asking a calibration question, you've just shifted the entire emotional burden right back onto them. They threw the bait, but instead of biting, you basically handed them a microphone and asked them to explain themselves. And the moment someone is forced to justify their own disrespect out loud, they instantly shrink in value in the room. They aren't the instigator anymore, they are completely on the defensive. Inevitably, when you force someone to explain themselves like this, they're going to offer some kind of weak excuse, or maybe they'll try to brush it off as just a joke. And that is exactly when you trigger step 3, the boundary reset. You need the exact phrasing to shut down the interaction cleanly. You just look at them and say, "I'm open to discussing this, but not in that tone." Boom. You are setting a rock-solid, firm boundary without bringing any emotional drama into it. Once you state that boundary, the absolute most important part of step 3 is what you do next. You immediately disengage. You return to your work, you look back at your phone, or you turn your attention to someone else in the room. By disengaging right after setting the boundary, you send this profound unspoken message to the other person. You're telling them, without even having to spell it out, that access to you is a privilege. It is not a right. If they want to speak to you, respect is the bare minimum requirement. Moving on to section 4, real-life application, passive-aggressive scenarios. Let's move to a real-world example and see exactly how this builds chronologically in a high-stakes situation. Say a coworker makes a passive-aggressive joke at your expense, just trying to score a cheap laugh in front of the team. First, the joke drops. Immediately, you initiate the sequence. You hold perfectly silent, neutral eye contact for 3 to 4 seconds. The room gets painfully quiet. Then you drop the calm question. "Did you mean for that to be funny?" As they awkwardly fumble over their words, you execute the boundary reset. Let's focus back on the topic. And then you completely turn your attention away. You've literally just mastered the temporal pacing of psychological dominance. I want you to really think about the contrast here. The weak reaction would be to awkwardly laugh off the joke, which shows submission to the group, or, snapping back aggressively, which just proves you lost emotional control. But when you execute the triad response, you display absolute, unshakable control while the other person is visibly losing theirs. And because of that stark contrast, your social status in that room absolutely skyrockets. Everyone watching instantly registers that you are not someone to be messed with, and you immediately command deep respect. Which leads us into section 5, mastering self-control, the ultimate power. At the end of the day, this isn't just about winning some petty verbal sparring match. It is all about your internal peace. I actually love this striking analogy from our source material. It says responding to disrespect with explosive anger is like setting your own house on fire just to kill a bug. Yeah, sure, you might get the bug, but you completely destroy your own peace in the process. We must never sacrifice our internal stability for someone else's dysfunction. Their disrespect is their problem. Please don't make it yours by losing your temper. To summarize our core takeaways today, this definitely takes practice. Try implementing the triad response in small interactions first. It's going to feel pretty unnatural initially to hold that long silence, for sure, but you just have to push through it. As we master these emotional reactions, people will naturally start to tread so much more carefully around us because they'll know our boundaries are made of iron. I want to end the explainer today by challenging all of us to reflect. What has historically been your go-to response when someone crosses the line with you? Are you a fiery arguer or are you the silent type? I want you to acknowledge those past patterns, but walk away today feeling fully empowered to change them. Try the triad response next time and watch the dynamic completely flip. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive and keep learning.